There is something Ford does not want you to know about your F-150 transmission. Open your owner's manual and look at the maintenance schedule. It says transmission fluid change at 150,000 miles for normal driving conditions. That sounds reasonable until you realize what Ford considers normal driving conditions. No towing, no heavy loads, highway miles only. If you live anywhere near reality, you are not in the normal category. Here's the problem. Your 10-speed automatic transmission generates massive amounts of heat. Every time you accelerate from a stoplight, tow a trailer, or climb a hill, the transmission is working hard and getting hot. Heat breaks down transmission fluid. The fluid stops protecting the internal components, and metal starts grinding on metal. By the time you hit 150,000 miles with the original fluid, the damage is already done. You just do not know it yet. Let me tell you what actually happens inside your transmission when you follow Ford's maintenance schedule. That bright red transmission fluid you had when the truck was new turns dark brown by 60,000 miles, and by 100,000 miles it is almost black. The fluid is supposed to lubricate clutch packs and keep everything moving smoothly. Dirty fluid cannot do that. The clutch material starts breaking down. Tiny metal particles from worn gears further contaminate the fluid. This creates a cycle where bad fluid causes wear, and that wear makes the fluid worse. The 10-speed transmission that Ford put in your F-150 starting in 2017 is a complex piece of machinery. It has 10 different gear ratios controlled by a valve body that routes hydraulic pressure to engage different clutches. When that hydraulic fluid gets contaminated, the valve body cannot function properly. You start getting harsh shifts between third and fourth gear. Maybe you notice a clunk when you put it in reverse in the morning. These are early warning signs that your transmission fluid is done. Most F-150 owners ignore these signs because the truck still drives. It shifts a little rough, but it gets you where you need to go. Then one day you are cruising down the highway and the transmission goes into limp mode. Your dash lights up with warnings. The truck barely moves. You are stuck on the side of the road calling a tow truck. When the dealer tells you it needs a complete transmission rebuild, you are looking at $6,000 to $7,000. All because transmission fluid that should have been changed at 60,000 miles was still in there at 120,000. Now here's where it gets interesting. Talk to any transmission shop that actually rebuilds these 10-speed units, and they will tell you the same thing. The number one cause of failure is neglected fluid changes. They open up these transmissions and find metal shavings in the pan. The clutch packs are burnt. The valve body is damaged from running contaminated fluid for too long. These are preventable failures that happen because owners followed Ford's official maintenance schedule. So why does Ford recommend waiting until 150,000 miles? It is about warranty periods and cost management. Your powertrain warranty runs 60,000 miles on most F-150s. Some have 75,000-mile warranties. Ford engineers know the transmission can survive on original fluid through the warranty period under perfect conditions. After that, it is your problem. If your transmission fails at 120,000 miles, you are paying for the rebuild out of pocket. Ford saves money on warranty claims by extending service intervals beyond what is actually best for the transmission. Independent transmission specialists who rebuild these units every single day recommend completely different intervals. They say, change your transmission fluid every 30,000 miles if you tow regularly. Change it every 60,000 miles if you drive mostly highway with light loads. Some shops that specialize in high-performance transmissions recommend even shorter intervals of 25,000 miles for trucks that work hard. These are not people trying to sell you unnecessary services. These are mechanics who see failed transmissions every week and know exactly what causes them. A guy brings in his 2020 F-150 with 56,000 miles. The transmission is shifting rough and throwing warning codes. The dealer quoted him a complete transmission replacement. The transmission shop pulls the pan and finds it full of metal shavings and burnt clutch material. The fluid looks like used motor oil. This truck is only 4 years old and the transmission is destroyed. Why? Because he towed his camper every summer and thought he was fine since he had not hit 150,000 miles yet. Compare that to another F-150 owner who changes his transmission fluid every 50,000 miles religiously. His truck has 230,000 miles on the original transmission. It still shifts smooth. No warning lights, no problems. The difference is fluid maintenance. Fresh fluid keeps everything lubricated and prevents the wear that kills transmissions early. It is the cheapest insurance you can buy for a transmission that costs $7,000 to replace. Here's what a transmission fluid change actually costs. If you go to a dealer, expect to pay $350 to $500 for a complete drain and fill with a new filter. Independent shops charge $250 to $400. Some owners do it themselves for about $150 in parts. Now compare that to $6,000 for a transmission rebuild. You could change your transmission fluid 10 times and still spend less money than one rebuild. The fluid change process is not complicated, but it does require removing the transmission pan. Your 10-speed does not have a drain plug. The whole pan comes off. Inside you will see the filter and magnet. That magnet catches metal particles that are circulating in the fluid. On a truck with 60,000 miles and original fluid, that magnet is covered in metal shavings. That is normal wear, but it shows you exactly why the fluid needs changing. All those metal particles are floating around, damaging seals and clutches. When fresh fluid goes back in, the difference is immediate. The transmission shifts smoother. The harsh engagement you were used to disappears. This is because clean fluid provides proper hydraulic pressure to the valve body. The clutches can engage and disengage the way they are designed to. Your transmission stops working so hard and generates less heat. This extends the life of every component inside the case. Now let's talk about what happens if you are already past 100,000 miles and never changed the fluid. This is a tough situation. Some mechanics will tell you not to change it at this point. Their reasoning is that fresh fluid might dislodge debris that has been sitting in the valve body. That debris can block passages and cause immediate failure. Other mechanics say fresh fluid is always better than old fluid regardless of mileage. The truth is somewhere in between. If your transmission is shifting fine at high mileage with old fluid, you are playing Russian roulette. The fluid is contaminated, but everything is still functioning. Changing it might help, or it might trigger problems that were waiting to happen anyway. If your transmission is already showing symptoms like harsh shifts or slipping, the damage is probably done. Fresh fluid will not fix worn clutches or a damaged valve body. At that point, you are looking at a rebuild regardless of what you do with the fluid. The smart play is never getting into that situation in the first place. Start changing your transmission fluid at reasonable intervals from the beginning. 60,000 miles for highway driving. 30,000 if you tow or haul heavy loads. This keeps the fluid fresh and prevents the wear that leads to expensive failures. It is the difference between a transmission that lasts 200,000 miles and one that dies at 120,000. Here's another thing Ford does not advertise. The 10-speed transmission runs hotter than older 6-speed transmissions. More gears means more clutch packs and more friction. All that friction creates heat. Your transmission has a cooler to manage temperatures, but it is only so effective. When you are towing in summer heat, transmission temperatures can spike above 200 degrees. At those temperatures, transmission fluid breaks down fast. What might last 60,000 miles in a car driven gently might only last 30,000 in a truck that tows every weekend. You cannot check your transmission fluid level the traditional way because Ford eliminated the dipstick. They claim it is a sealed transmission that does not need checking. This is nonsense. Every transmission needs its fluid checked periodically. Without a dipstick, you need special tools or a dealer scan tool to verify the level. This makes it harder for owners to maintain their trucks and creates another revenue stream for dealers who charge for this service. Some F-150 owners install aftermarket transmission pans with drain plugs. These deep pans hold more fluid and make changes easier. The extra fluid capacity also helps with cooling since there is more fluid to absorb heat. Companies make these pans specifically for the 10-speed transmission. They are not cheap, but they are a worthwhile upgrade if you plan to keep your truck long-term. The easier you make fluid changes, the more likely you are to actually do them. Let us be clear about one thing. Your F-150's transmission is not a bad transmission. The 10-speed is capable of lasting hundreds of thousands of miles. The failures you hear about are almost always maintenance-related. Trucks that get regular fluid changes rarely have transmission problems. Trucks that run on original fluid past 100,000 miles fail at an alarming rate. The transmission itself is fine. The maintenance schedule is the problem. So what is the one thing you need to do to prevent transmission failure? Change your transmission fluid based on how you actually use your truck, not what Ford's manual says. If you tow, haul loads, or drive in stop and go traffic, you are in the severe duty category. That means fluid changes every 30,000 miles. If you mostly drive highway miles with no trailer, 60,000 miles is reasonable. But never, under any circumstances, wait until 150,000 miles. This is the maintenance item that separates F-150s that last from F-150s that end up at transmission shops. It is not complicated. It is not expensive compared to a rebuild. It just requires ignoring Ford's official recommendation and following what transmission specialists who rebuild these units every day actually recommend. Your transmission will thank you by lasting twice as long as trucks that follow the book. When your buddy is paying $7,000 for a rebuild at 120,000 miles, you will still be driving smooth at 200,000 miles. The choice is yours. Follow Ford's schedule and hope you are one of the lucky ones. Or change your transmission fluid at intervals that actually protect your investment. Transmission rebuilds cost $6,000 to $7,000. Fluid changes cost $300 to $400. The math is not complicated. Neither is the decision.